Hello, everyone. I'm here today with Nicole Smith for our Ideas for Divas videocast. So today we are going to talk about how people are actually reshaping their priorities during these uncertain times. So Nicole, why don't you go and introduce yourself and say why you are a diva?
Hi, well, I'm Nicole Smith. I am a life and leadership coach. What that means is that I help develop, support, and overall celebrate women in business. I think I'm a diva because I love how you've defined this. I would say I fit the description of a diva because I define my own options and I help other women do the same thing to define success on their own terms and pick their own direction for their life, no matter what's going on around them.
Awesome. So how are your clients reevaluating their career priorities during this crisis?
Yeah, well, the crisis has impacted everybody, right? If you can't get away from it. Luckily, my clients, they're all still in their jobs, and they had jobs that they really enjoyed. The one thing I'm cautioning for them is to be thoughtful about overworking, because when you switch to working from home, the guardrails of a traditional work day or traditional work schedule are gone. So you have to step in and have the tools of self leadership, putting your own boundaries up so that you're not overdoing it. It's very easy. You know, you feel like you're not visible. You want to work so hard to be visible. You want to make sure everybody knows you're working. And especially in a crisis, often there's more work to be done. So it's easy to raise your hand and say, oh, I'll do that, because your workday doesn't really end. It can just keep going. But what I'm cautioning them to do is really think about your priorities. Don't lose sight of who you want to be and the life you want to live during this crisis. More than anything, it's important to take care of ourselves and not lose sight of our overall vision for our career.
And how do you think that they are managing these priorities? I think that, at least to me, it's been really hard to really focus on that because there's so many changes happening on the fly in the organization, and the schedules and everything's changing, right? So any advice on how to really stick to your priorities and figure out a way to have them in mind?
Yeah, well, it sounds really like simple, and it's not as simple as it may sound. But one of the things is that make sure, if you haven't already during this crisis, sit down and remind yourself of what your priorities are, right? Like, everybody's been so concerned about consuming news or what's happening in the moment that maybe you just haven't taken that 5, 10, or 15 minutes to remind yourself, what did I come in this wanting? What do I want my life to look like? Who do I want to be coming out of this? And then work from that place. Because you really have to work from the place of your personal vision. Because if you don't have a strong personal vision, you're going to end up adopting the vision of the people around you. And that's not
Yeah,
necessarily going to be the vision that's right for you.
that's such a great point. And I think that I need to do that myself because
We all need to do
I've been going with the
it.
flow and it's not good.
And don't be afraid, if you did have a vision, to revisit it, because maybe it's not relevant anymore. Maybe there's been enough significant changes in your life or at your work that you just need to refresh that. Like, refreshing is a good thing. Never be afraid to do that.
Yeah. So you were talking that all your clients, fortunately, are employed and they really like what you're doing, right? But we see that there is an increase in unemployment right now. And many of people who are actually losing their jobs, they're super skilled employees. So what would be your advice for someone that is right now looking for their next opportunity? Would it be maybe take some time to spend with the family, review their priorities and reevaluate their priorities before they move forward, upskill, do some training, or really jump to find something because of financial constraints? What would be
Yeah.
your view on that?
Yeah, this is an interesting one. And I think this is another place where being a diva is going to work in your favor, right? Because there's a lot of pressure and a lot of voices to do one thing or another. And my answer is, do what works for you. What I tell people first and foremost is, secure your safety, your minimal needs, right? If you feel like money is something that you need and you need to make sure that you can pay your rent, mortgage, keep the lights on, that kind of stuff, make sure you secure how you're going to do that. It's very difficult to think and be creative when your basic needs aren't met. I would also caution to think about what your basic needs are, right? Like, maybe there's some things you can scale back on, and maybe you're in a position that's just fine. So once you feel like you're secure in your basic needs, I think this is a great time to really think about, what do you really want? The world may or may not be the way that it was, 2 or 3 months ago. And that means you have an opportunity to pivot and change as well. What did you really want? Did you love that job? Did you love what you were doing? Do you want to go back to it? Or were there things that you would have changed anyway? This is your chance to change it. I know losing your job sucks. It's happened to me before, whether it was something I decided or something that was decided for me. And change is sometimes uncomfortable. But if you can lean into that discomfort just a little bit, what's on the other side of it may be better than what was behind you. And so I really, really, I mean, I can't say really enough times, encourage people to just take a beat. Don't panic. Take a deep breath,
Mm-hmm.
secure your basic needs, and then think about what you really, truly want.
Do you have any suggestion on how people could go for that? Because I talk to people all the time, regardless if they're looking for a different job or not. And it's hard to figure out what people want. I hear a lot of complaints about what they don't like. But
Hmm.
when I ask, like, okay, so what do you want to do next? And I had the same process happen to me like some years ago, that I had to grow, to just really grow through it. But do you have any, like, if people are going through this phase and they are saying, like, I want to do a change, any suggestions for them to figure out what they're passionate about and to change?
Yes, I have one. I think it's a fun suggestion, right? So take some time to create a vision for your life. Okay, so that's not a vision of what your life looks like next week. I want you to think further out in the future. Think 2 years, even 5 years out. Maybe not more than five, but a good distance. Think about not just what you want to do, but who do you want to be,
Mm-hmm.
right? Who do you want to be from your perspective? Like, how do you want to see and feel about yourself? How do you want others to see you and feel about you? So when you're not in the room, what do you want them to say, right?
Mm-hmm.
And think about the type of work that that person does. If you want to be the type of person who jet sets and who travels a lot and who is location independent, then that's a very different job than someone who's wants to come home every night,
Mm-hmm.
or that wants to be, set in one place. And I think if you start to do that, that's a good first step. I think the second step is, this word is often overused, but I'm going to define it for us today, is think about what lights you up, AKA your passion. So the
Mm-hmm.
way I think of passion is for you. It's not for anybody else. It's what lights you up. It's what gets you excited. And remember that your passion doesn't necessarily have to be monetized, but your job should not negate your passion, right? Like, so if you're really passionate, like me, I'm very passionate about elevating women and seeing women succeed in business. I probably shouldn't go into a business that is not receptive or accepting of women, or
Mm-hmm.
won't support that mission. I won't be happy, right? And then think about what your purpose is. And a lot of people are like, I don't know what my purpose is. I would say think of your purpose as your legacy, what you want to leave behind, your contribution to the world. And if you know what lights you up, you know what your contribution is to the world, and you know what you want your life to look like a couple years out, you'll be so much closer to figuring out, how does work fit into that?
Mm-hmm.
How does my job support that? Because your job should be supporting that. Your job should be something that's a platform to help you do that. It shouldn't be working against that dream or who you want to be.
Thanks for that. I love it. I'm going to start. You just gave me a lot of homework for myself, a lot of things that I should be doing. So I like to thank you to participate in the Ideas for Divas videocast. Thanks a lot. Hopefully, you're going to help a lot of people who will be watching this.
Oh, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.